Welcome. My name is Rory Butler, and I'm here to introduce you to several survivors of suicide loss who have come together today to share with you their own very personal stories and experiences of their journey of heartache and loss, and how they have found hope and reasons to live in the aftershock of losing a friend or a family member to suicide. I'm truly very sorry for the reason you've joined us today, but please know that you are not alone. You are safe, and among others who understand and share your grief. Penny Knapp is a survivor of suicide loss, and she will be facilitating this discussion today. Penny's son, Nicholas, died by suicide on May the 19th, 2007, at the age of 20. Nicholas was a fun-loving young man. He loved life. And he was a very caring person. He loved music, and he loved spending time with his friends. Nicholas always wanted to make the world a better place. In so many ways, Nicholas had everything to live for. And after Nicholas's death, Penny was left with many unanswered questions. And one of her biggest questions was why? Why would a person so full of life, who always had time for others and greeted them with a smile, why, when he had so much to give and so much to live for, why did he end his life? How could a mum, together with family and friends, ever overcome and survive this immense loss and huge shock? Well, there is no simple answer to the question, why? The fact that there is no simple answer emphasizes the complexity of suicide. Survival for Penny and her family has been a constant struggle with much searching and questioning. It's not uncommon for survivors of suicide loss to replay their loved ones' last days over and over again, somehow trying to make sense of what happened. And all the more so at the beginning, when all the emotions and questions can feel simply overwhelming. It's important for us to consider that some research indicates that as many as 90% of those who die by suicide have a diagnosable, yet not always diagnosed, mental illness at the time of their death. Suicide is not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. Penny's journey through grief brought her into contact with many survivors who, amidst their grief, were finding ways to cope and ways to survive. The very fact that survivors were still here gave Penny the hope that surviving suicide of her son Nicholas would be possible. We hope, after watching this video, that you will hear something that connects with you and helps you to better understand your journey of grief and helps you and your loved ones to move forward. Both good and not so good days lie ahead, but know that your loved ones will never be forgotten. Please join us for the next 1 hour of discussion, and then some clips of Penny and her daughters Marcia and Melanie, who will share their story and experiences in their aftershock of Nicholas's death by suicide. Their hope for you after watching this DVD is that you will find hope through each survivor's story, and that you will feel less alone, and that you and your loved ones will feel strengthened. Even in the toughest moments, never give up. Keep going. Thank you.
So I want to welcome everybody today. You met Rory earlier when he did the introduction of our day today and the purpose of our get-together today. So welcoming each and every one of you, it's an honor to have you here, and you have to know that many people are going to look at this DVD, watch the DVD, some from the privacy of their home, some maybe with a support group, Maybe some will be within an office. It's very hard to say where they will, and they're going to look to you for a connection. They're going to look to you for answers. And most of all, they're going to look to you for hope. And that's why you've been asked here. My name is Penny, and I'm going to facilitate the group today and kind of keep us on track and what we talk about and whatnot. So let's begin with introducing ourselves and give a little bit of information, whatever you feel free talking about and saying. Erica.
As you said, my name is Erica. I am working as a support worker. And 5 years ago, I lost my boyfriend as well as my best friend to suicide. They were great people and they're dearly missed.
And you're from around here, are you, Erica?
Yes, from a small town just outside called Rodney.
Thank you.
My name's Andrea. I'm 24, and 16 years ago, I lost my father, Glenn, to suicide. And now I am working on a master's degree in publishing studies.
Awesome. Thank you.
My name is Larry. My son Nicholas passed away May 19th, 2007, 5 years ago. I live in West Lauren. I've worked in the area for 24 or 25 years now. And that's it.
Thank you, Larry.
My name is Chris. I lost my son Rick June the 28th, 2010. June 2012 will be 2 years. I was employed. I am now seeking a work opportunity, and I'm from Brantford, Ontario.
Welcome. On the issue of stigmatization, Erica, do you want to share anything that you can think of that might have affected you due to suicide?
I definitely felt stigmatized by the loss of my boyfriend and my best friend both. A lot of people didn't know what to say. They tried to avoid saying anything whatsoever. Tried to avoid the topic. It was really difficult too, because at the time, I was 19. I was really young, and in this area it was the first suicide that we had really had of someone so young. And I don't think at the age level that I was at, anyone really understood or grasped how to deal with a situation like this. And it was especially difficult for my younger sister being in high school and having to face that every single day. So.
Yes, and you did say, I think we were talking, and being from a small town, a rural town, it was like they were probably watching to see what happens, how you handle it.
Yep. All eyes were on me, and it was a small town, so everybody knew everybody else, and it didn't really matter where I went. Someone was watching me and wanted to say something, or didn't know what to say. So. But it was definitely in your face all the time, having to deal with it. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did feel stigmatized at the time. I was only 8, so I didn't really know that I was being stigmatized. But I was from a small town, and I went to a really small school. There was only 400 kids there, and so from the time I was in grade 2 until I graduated grade 8, I was that girl whose dad had killed himself. And it wasn't until I got to high school, where there were a couple thousand kids and nobody knew who I was, that I actually got away from that. And it was a totally new experience, because I had grown up with that stigma attached to me. And it was an adjustment to make that people didn't know. And I just kind of expected everyone to know. And I also found that someone told me when I went back to school after my father died that my teacher had told them not to talk about it, not to ask me any questions. And of course they did anyway, because they were all 8-year-olds. But I was surprised at that.
You probably didn't know the meaning of stigmatization, what it meant then, and yet your teacher was protecting you, so they thought.
Yeah, I always wondered how the school explained what happened. Because,
Yeah.
you know, everyone knew, all the kids knew, all the teachers knew, all the parents knew. And I never, like, maybe, did they come over the PA system? And, like, yeah, I'm sure they
Yes.
didn't, but.
Yes, right. But was there any discussion at all? Maybe, you know, like maybe the classroom that you belonged to, but maybe the rest of the school, it was just from word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Larry?
Yeah, when I was at home and before I had gone back to work, there was maybe an instance that I had to come into town for something, and I remember walking down the sidewalk and approaching a person that I did know, and they nodded to say, yeah, they acknowledged me coming at them, but they really had nothing to say, and I don't know that I was able to say anything myself, but in going back to work full time, it was there. I ran into it often, but not as much as you would expect. Most people were pretty good to me when I went back to work. It was the people I worked with that were most accepting.
When you say on the job and you'd run into people, did you have a conversation about it, or was it avoided?
I'm going to say probably everyone at different intervals of my reintroduction back into work took time or wanted to know
Yeah.
where I was and how I was doing.
Right. Thank you.
So yeah, it was there and yep.
Thank you. Chris?
Actually, no. I had so much love around me with my family, my friends, and my son's friends. They were all there for me. I only took 3 weeks off work, went back to work because I felt I needed the structure, not realizing I was going to have triggers at work. But customers were very good with me, so I didn't have that feeling at all.
That's awesome. It really is. And on that note, when you talk about triggers, I wanted to know if anybody experienced triggers throughout your journey of grief. Erica, can you recall some?
Oh, definitely. I think any kind of country song that came on was a very big trigger. That was his favorite type of music. For Jason, he used to drive a Dodge Ram pickup truck, and it was black, and every time I saw one drive by, that was a big trigger. Going to different locations. I remember being in the mall one day, and I thought I saw Nick walking around the mall, and that was definitely a trigger too. So, and the thing is that most of the triggers come when you don't expect them to come. They creep up on you, and you have no idea they're coming, and all of a sudden you'll be emotional. So
Very well said. I have heard a lot of that. It just comes out of nowhere. It's not something that you're expecting.
Yep.
You would not know that this trigger is a trigger.
Yep, and you
Yeah.
can't control them either.
No, that's right. Andrea?
I've had very similar experiences. It's never expected, and it's been so long for me that I'm never expecting a trigger.
Yeah.
Especially because for the first, it's only been the past few years that I've actually experienced them. Sometimes I'll ask my mom questions about Dad because, he's been dead for 2/3 of my life. So he's been dead far longer than I knew him. And I asked her what the first dance at their wedding, what song that was,
Yeah.
or what song they played at his funeral. And she would tell me, and they were super old, so I didn't know them. And I went and listened to them on YouTube, and the song they played at his funeral, I could only get through the first 10 seconds. And that I totally wasn't expecting that. And just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was watching an episode of Glee, and I got triggered. I'm sure there was people watching it that would have been far more triggered than I was. And I thought it was insensitive that they didn't have a warning.
Yes, you're right. That's a very good point. So it doesn't really matter how long it's been since the death of your loved one, because triggers will happen. Thank you. Larry, do you have any comment on triggers?
Probably the thing that affects me most is is the mornings. And I say that is because our daughters, they were moved on and going to college, and so it was mostly me and Nick in the morning, and that would always be our time, I guess you'd call it, and that's what affects me more than anything, is that we always had a connection, be it about him eating 2 bowls of cereal before he went to school or whatever he was doing, and it was always a pleasant thing. And now it's, I look across and he's there, but in a different way.
So the triggers, were they different at the beginning than what they are now?
Yeah, at the beginning it was wasn't always the happiest thoughts I was having thinking about him, and now I actually smile and enjoy the thoughts.
So it's interesting how the trigger in one way can trigger something sad, but it can also trigger a happy memory.
Yep.
That's good. That's good. And to recognize that too. That's important. Chris, do you have anything about triggers you want to share?
I found it hit me a lot when I was driving. I'd be driving down the road, listening to music, happy, and then all of a sudden Rick would pop into my head and I'd get sad.
Yes. I heard Dr. Jack Jordan talking about the automobile. He called it autotherapy. Many survivors talk about being in the vehicle because you have time to think, and that's when things come to you.
Yeah, I might shed a few tears, but one of my friends had given me an empathy bear. It's white with a heart, a handkerchief, and a diamond teardrop, and with a whole lot of ladybugs. So I just crunched my little teddy bear at the side there, and I smile, and it goes away. I've had so many compliments on that bear.
Good.
And then I tell them why I have it, and they look so sad.
Yeah.
But I love that bear.
It's a happy teddy bear.
It is. It's in my car with me at all times.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you.
I think people don't expect you to have good feelings with anything that's associated with the death. So people would assume that the bear just brings back bad memories.
Where it does the opposite.
Yeah, it's something that you clung to for support during that time.
And that's important.
It's been amazing.
That's a very good point, Andrea, to bring up. Is people don't expect it, you know, and that's good. Yeah, it's about happy memories. You can cry and be sad, but it's happy. Yeah. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so coincidental. A trigger is ladybugs. I can remember Nick. He used to freak out when ladybugs would be around him or in the house, and he'd say, "How could these things get in the house?" and all that, and everything's all shut up, and that was amusing to me. That was always a happy trigger. And seeing ladybugs, I'd always think of them right away.
Let's talk a little bit about, did anybody seek support group or counseling or a therapist? Was that available in your area? Did you seek it out? Did you have it referred? Just talk a little bit about if you had an experience with that. Erica.
Well, in our area, we're a very small town. Services are limited, so we actually had to go outside of West Lorne. When the day that it happened, we actually had grief counselors come to the house, and it's kind of a blur, but I do remember the one gentleman that was there was saying, you know, I lost someone to suicide, and this is what you can expect. This is what I went through. So that was very helpful. Again, a little blurry, but I do remember that being very significant to have someone come the day of and give their support. I went through 3 counselors before I finally found someone that understood. The first counselor had never been through something like this before, had never experienced loss, and she was saying things that I didn't necessarily agree with, so had to move along. And my most recent counselor had actually lost a boyfriend to suicide, and I had never met someone so positive in my entire life. And you know, here I am crying, and she's smiling and saying, you know, come on, it's going to be fine. And I've seen her quite a bit since, and I would strongly recommend to anyone, if they're looking to the counseling route, to look for someone that's, you know, that can relate to their situation. So.
Good, very good. Andrea.
I didn't seek it myself because I was 8, but my mom, I'm not sure how she found the group, but it was grief counseling for kids, and it was a group thing. I thought it was helpful. I'm kind of detached from it, the memories. I remember bits and pieces of it. There was, I have a box, like we made a shoe box and filled it full of stuff that reminded us of the person who died. But the one thing I would have changed about that is all the other kids, their mother would have died of cancer or something like that. There was no one else who experienced a suicide loss. And I think that would have been helpful for me and my brother. But I think it did help.
So do you still have that box, Andrea?
Yeah, it's in my closet.
So you were in a grief group, so it would be general grief, and you and your brother were the only ones doing this box because of suicide.
Yep, all the other kids had, you know.
Different grief.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what about further down the line as you got older? Did you ever see reason to seek counseling or therapist?
Yeah, shortly after my father died, I developed binge eating disorder. So it took me a while to figure out that that's what had happened. Yeah. But once I was diagnosed, I looked for counseling.
It's good they're there, and that's good there's access to it. Great, thank you. Larry, did you have a comment about that, or any experience with
To say that I went and got counseling or wanted anyone to talk to, not really. It was more at the onset. It was the people and family and friends and that came into our home and talked to me or let me talk to them. That's basically all I ever had, except for my wife and my daughters. But there was a couple that got in contact with us, and they just wanted to come and talk. And here they had lost their daughter 25 years previously, and they were. At first, I was very hesitant to want to speak to them. I didn't know why they would want to come and see us, but lo and behold, it was a beautiful thing, you know, that we did get in contact with them, and they came and they shared and we shared, and it continued on for years after that. We would call back and forth, and every time I spoke to the gentleman, it was. He'd always say, "How you doing?" And I wasn't big on communicating or talking, but once I heard his voice, it was like it snapped me a little bit, and I would talk about everything and anything that was going on in my life, and that was my. It was a good thing for me.
So they were survivors of suicide loss years previous,
Yeah.
and they reached out to you as a new survivor.
Yeah.
And at first you were hesitant, so it turned out to be a positive thing.
Yes, I believe it.
Good.
It helped me.
Did it help being a male? Because you are the only male that's here talking today about your journey of grief. So did it help to be able to talk earlier?
Yeah, it. Like I said, there was many relatives and friends that I did talk to, and they were around for a while, but it ended, and nobody came around. But this one individual, he would call her. Mostly he would call. I don't think I ever called him, which was a good thing.
You can share their name if you want.
Well, his name was Dave and his wife was Evelyn. Very, very nice couple. But yeah.
So you could share your journey together, actually. Is that what you
True,
guys were doing?
true.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good.
It was a good thing. It really
Yes.
was.
So would you, or have you ever thought of being the type of survivor like Dave did to you, to reach out to other men, or is that something you're not ready for? Will you know?
I could only imagine being that kind of person that I could sit and share with another individual on how I feel and what I could do for them, and let me share, or they share to me how they feel. I could only imagine doing that, but it
There's
would probably
always hope.
yeah, it'd probably be a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Chris, did you have the opportunity to seek counseling or even part of a support group?
The first person I sought out was my doctor. And I
Right.
called on a Monday, and I was surprised I got in the same day. And he told me he read about my son Rick. So he has been there for me since day one. He checks in with me every month. We talk, we figure out where I'm at and stuff like that. The funeral home gave me 2 sessions of grief counseling. At the time, there was no group for victims of suicide loss. So they steered me to Grief Share, and it's a 12-week course. Now, Grief Share showed me the feelings I was feeling were normal for my situation, but I still didn't feel like I fit in.
Yeah.
Shortly thereafter, there was a group set up in Brantford, and I go there once a month, and it's a group I fit in.
It pertains to survivors of suicide
yes,
loss.
I can go there and say anything that I'm feeling, and it's like they confirm. Yeah, we went through that. It's been like a roller coaster. I've sought out lots of counseling. My counseling now is to help me to move on. But it's a roller coaster ride with different levels, and I'm getting through it.
I like what you said, your counseling is about moving on. When you find yourself stuck, has anybody found themselves stuck where they can't move on at any time, where it's tough to move on and got through it, and now maybe there's something else that you're working on?
I think there are a lot of moments where you can feel very stuck, and I think part of the problem that I encountered was I felt that I could get through that stuck moment by myself, and the problem is when people do get stuck and they start thinking that way, they don't talk to people, they don't seek out any help, and I think one of the things that everyone needs to remember is that it's okay to get stuck and ask for help, and once you ask for that help and you get that support, then you can get through that period.
And if you don't get that help, don't give up. Seek it again.
Yes, definitely.
Because it's so important to know that as a survivor, you may not get the help immediately, because if the person you're seeking help to doesn't know how to help you, doesn't know what you need to get past that stuck, go farther. Keep it up. Yeah. Anybody else have anything to share about being stuck?
I found that when my father first died, I was very young, so I don't think I grieved in the traditional way, if there is a traditional way to grieve.
Yeah.
I didn't really go through I don't remember crying when it happened. I don't have any memories of experiencing intense sadness or anything like that. But when I was a teenager, I got kind of upset about it, and it was very delayed, obviously. And I think I didn't really know how to react to that because, it had been, 6 or 8, 7 years since he died, and it's strange, like, it's hard to find a group that would help with grief that's that delayed, right?
Yeah.
Everyone in typical grief groups is going through something very recently.
Yeah.
And so I think it wasn't as severe as it would have been. So I was able to, get through that on my own.
Good.
But I think it would have been nice if there was more that I could have found to help.
Yeah. Grief can happen at any time. There's just no instruction book on what is supposed to happen. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I've noticed in group counseling that I've been in, people are in different stages of grief. Some people that show up for group, it was 9-10 years ago, and they're just starting to feel all those feelings and trying to deal with them.
Yeah.
So
That's really good that they came out even though it's been that long. That's very good because that long can be like yesterday, if you're stuck on a particular issue. So it's good they're able to get up and go and seek some help. Good.
I myself, I struggled for a lot of years. The onset, once again, it was, as time went on, I would try to talk to my wife and share with her. And it was more like every time I opened my mouth, it would bring up feelings of sadness, and she would cry, and then I would cry, and it would. I felt it was counterproductive for me to open my mouth and say anything. So, what I did do was shut up, and I kind of tried to bury what was going on in my head, and that didn't work. So yes, it's taken me a long time to come to where I'm at right now, and know that it wasn't a good thing to be quiet. I was quiet to everybody else, but my own person, I struggled. So.
Well, you say a long time, so if you think about it, what could a long time have been? Because the first year, everybody's in the same place. They're all talking. Did you find that both you and your wife would stop sharing because you felt the same?
There was always still the sharing. It was more like I would. The emotion that was with the sharing was tearing me apart, and I didn't like that feeling of not being in control, but yet my wife, she moved on quite well, and I was very happy, but I could not move in the same paces that she was, and that caused issues not with only me but with her, that I was having a hard time. So yes, grief is a ongoing thing, and these black holes or dark places or wherever, I was there, and I believe I'm crawling out of them as best I can.
Well, that's awesome that you recognize it, but welcome to the world of grief, Larry. You're not in control. I'm sure that many can share that how much control does anybody have when you are going through your journey of grief? And what is your journey of grief? As you said, Andrea, it's been 16 years?
Yeah.
So, and you can still relate to some of this as you became a teenager. So, welcome to the world of no control. Thank you. So let's move on to, can you tell me, after the funeral, you remember it's a busy time? All the friends and family have stopped coming around, and all of a sudden, they've all gone on with their life, but where are you still? Or how was it for you? Erica?
Very difficult. I think that it's very different to lose someone to suicide than it is any other death, because those that are left behind are constantly grieving. They're constantly asking questions. And other people around them that haven't gone through this don't understand that. And I think a lot of people expect that you're going to move on. And, you know, I've been there for her and I've done my part and she's fine now. And that's not how it works. It's a constant thing, and any death is really something that you never really get over. You never really, you know, you move on slowly, but it's something that is always with you. And I think that was very difficult to understand, was, you know, why are these people walking away? It's only been 3 months, yet it feels like yesterday. And it's one of those things that you feel like people are forgetting there, and you want to do whatever you can to try to keep that memory alive. So,
did you feel like you'd had enough, but yet how dare they not
yes,
ask
it's
you?
it's a constant game of, you know, why won't people talk to me? Why won't people ask me how I'm doing today? Yet, you know, when someone did, sometimes you felt like, oh, we got to talk about this, you know.
Yes.
It's a constant battle, and it's a very difficult time period in your healing to reach, because you're very caught in the middle, as you could say.
Did you think maybe you felt like you were educating them when you're going through it yourself for the first time, being suicide grief?
I think so. I had a lot of people come to me and say, you know, I'm sorry that I don't ask more often.
Yeah.
I don't know how to deal with this. And, you know, it was kind of a learning experience on both sides, because I had never been through it before either. So we kind of had to learn together how we're going to go through this. And you know, it got to the point where it was, you know, if I need something from you, you know, for the most part, I'll ask. So we did come to an understanding with it.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Andrea, you have a unique situation being young. Do you remember, you know, the busy time and what went on, and then it, you know, changed?
I remember the first week or two after it happened, and I remember bits and pieces of how things changed after that, but I don't remember a whole lot of stuff. And I didn't even realize that that's probably because of what happened. My memory of that time period in my life is much spottier than I think your typical preteen's memory would have been. And up until maybe 11 or 12, my memory is really spotty of things that I, you know, should remember, like family vacations and things like that. And I think it startles my mother sometimes that I don't remember things that happened when I was 10, because it's not like I was 3.
That's right. I think that this is where we realize our body has a built-in mechanism that kicks in to protect us. And I think that we need to, as survivors of suicide, that was a traumatic event, and we need to know that our body is taking care of us when we're not consciously taking care of ours. And that's one way it takes care of us. So accepting the memory loss, it's okay. If you have pictures, you can always go back. You said that, you know, your mom was surprised. Maybe your mom could share some of the stories that she remembers. That is, fills the voids. and helps you along a little bit too. Thank you. Larry, is there anything you want to share that might be helpful for survivors, you know, the few days, weeks, whatever, after the funeral?
I remember vividly, like, the day of the funeral, and all the people that came, and it was a good thing. We actually sat in our backyard and talked, and I met some young people that Nick was friends with in Fanshawe, and I had never met them before, and it was kind of good because they would tell me stories about him and what they were doing and the things that he would say and do, and it was uplifting, to say the least. For me, it was a good thing. And days later, weeks later, it was very tough. Kind of hung on, just grasping at anything you could to carry on, and yeah.
So hearing the stories about Nick and things you had not heard about was good. And they're in your memory bank now, and you can draw on them.
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
I know that when my dad died, I didn't know him very well because, you know, I was 8 and I had this kind of idealized version of what I thought my dad was. And over the years, people would share things that I didn't know about him, and I would really cling to that. I still do. I still hear new things from people that I didn't know he was acquainted with. And it's helped me develop a more realistic version of what my father was, but I really enjoy hearing stories of what he was like when he was alive.
Yes. Good point. It's kind of like the positive you get to draw on. That's good. Chris, right after the funeral, it had been so busy, and then all of a sudden everybody goes home. If that was your experience, is there anything you want to share on that?
Yeah, everyone did go home. I was all by myself crying. I dug right into looking for counseling right away. So I would say the first 3 months I was cocooning myself a lot, but my friends kept digging me out. My son's friends were there for me also, and sharing stories too. And even though I would cry, I keep learning more and more about my son that I didn't know, that his friends knew.
Yeah.
And, you know, they talk about his music and how he could just write a song just like that, and stuff like that. But again, my friends, they were there for me. I didn't reach out very often. They kept reaching out to me and my son's friends. If they didn't get me on the phone and they knew I was home, they would show up at my door. So
Good.
I would have to say his friends and my friends is what kept me going.
Awesome. Good. Thank you.
And also just to add to that, you know, the idea, you know, when you think about 3 months after everything has happened, I think when you go through something like this, time just ceased to exist. And there's a little part of you that says, you know, can time just slow down for a minute just so I can, you know, process what has happened? And even now it's been 5 years and it still feels like yesterday sometimes, unfortunately. So, you know, when it's a totally different perspective when you're dealing with it being the victim of someone who's passed away from suicide. It's constantly there with you, and when other people start to move on, it's hard for us to understand why, because we're still understanding that time is moving and we're not ready to move on with it. So.
That's right. Yeah, very good point. I think that my relation to that I think about is at my job, when my work said, you know, it's been 6 months, get over it.
Ooh.
So when people say things like that, they're not educated. They're, and I mean in a sense, not experienced with suicide. And the death by suicide is such a unique, unknown, unanswered questions. It's so different. So for someone to say, get over it, it's because it's their problem. They don't understand it. They don't know why, and they're uncomfortable with it. I want to ask you, when did reality set in? Or did you feel it has set in that this is finally all real? I am not the same person I was before the suicide. I'm a different person. I'm a new person. And how are you with that? How were you when you realized it?
I remember that day perfectly. It was, I was in my second year university, and I was walking to class with my roommate, and she made a comment to me and said, you know, something's not right with you. You're just not yourself today. Something's bothering you. And I kept saying, I don't know what's going on. And you know, later that evening, I remember calling my mom, just breaking down and crying and saying, I have to come home. And she said, why? And I said, because this actually happened. And reality just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think I had realized at that point, you know, as much as I was trying to deal with it, I really wasn't. And I was walking around with a big fake smile on my face. And when it hits you, it's absolutely terrifying, and it's very emotional, and you can't control it. But it took about 2 years for that to happen for me.
Wow, yeah. And so you realized it's happened?
Yes.
Do you feel you're a different person since the suicide? And how is that for you?
I felt different in that, you know, wow, I've grown in the last 2 years for me to finally come to this point and realize that this has actually happened. But then I knew that I had a long way to go still. I knew that I had a lot more growing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
I didn't experience that exactly. I think because it happened when I was so young, by the time I hit my formative years, I was already that person. So I don't remember experiencing any change in who I was. It was just this thing that had always been part of my life.
Yeah.
So I just, it never really hit me that it was, you know, a real thing that happened, because it had just always been that way for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Good. Larry?
I'm going to have to say that it was a long time before I found myself smiling or laughing at work or anything I was doing. And I would question the fact that, how come I'm, you know, is it okay to laugh? And I caught myself laughing and thought, why should I be laughing, or why should I be happy? And the realization is that, and I found that was, Nick took his life, but he didn't take mine. And it was okay that I laughed.
That's very powerful to say that, Larry, that Nicholas took his life, not yours. That's a very powerful statement, because I think many view it and feel it like it was their life. Your life has been affected, no doubt, but you still have a life. And from that point on, it's your life, what you decide. Very good point. That must have been very difficult to come to that form of reality, because that's very much about moving forward. Thank you for sharing that. Chris, do you have a comment about when did reality actually set in, or did it? And what was that like?
I don't think reality has hit me yet. I'm still working through the pain and stuff. My friends keep saying they're waiting for the old Chris to come back. And I always respond that the old Chris is gone. And we'll have to figure out what I am when I finish going through all my processes of grieving and stuff, and see how I end up. I want to be different, but I'm not sure how.
Well, it's an experience of a suicide loss. You're going to be different. That goes without saying, because that kind of experience not everybody experiences, and that's why we're here. There's no up-to-date statistics, and there is no resource, Canadian, Ontario resource on how it affects you, what happens, who are you, why are we like this? And that's the awesome thing about being here today, that everybody gets to share. And again, survivors and people watching will view this and connect and hopefully find hope, a reason to continue living. It'll be used for educational purposes. So again, thank you so much for opening your hearts and sharing with us today. It's awesome. I would like to go to the family and friends aspect of things. They were there for us after the funeral. They were there for us before the funeral. And now, as things move on and we know people don't know what to say, just feel free to give a comment or not about, has the relationship changed with your family? Now, this can be immediate family. This can be a second family, extended family. This can be friends. Any change of a relationship outside of what it was before the suicide. Erica?
I would say in terms of my immediate family, we all got a lot closer, a lot more understanding of each other. If someone was having a bad day, we'd ask. We all kind of leaned on each other, because not only did this affect myself, but it affected them a great deal. Both the boys were a very big part of their lives, and they were just as much affected, I think, as I was. In terms of extended family, I found family members who, you know, I was never really that close with, finally reaching out and wanting to be there for me, you know. So, and we still have that relationship today. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, a tragedy like this, that's what it takes for family to come a lot closer. Yeah. And I think it's affected us all in a positive way. So
That's good. Thank you.
welcome.
I know my mom and my brother and I are fairly close for, immediate family. My mom and my brother less so together, because they're pretty much the same person, so they clash a lot. But I'm close with both of them. And my brother's only a year younger than me, so a lot of my friends find it highly unusual that my brother is one of my best friends. And I get a lot of comments that they're jealous because they don't have the same kind of relationship with their siblings. And I maintain that if we hadn't gone through what we'd gone through, it wouldn't be like that. But my dad's family, after he killed himself, they kind of withdrew. We went through a time where my older brother and sister from my dad's first marriage would come over like once a month and take us to our paternal grandparents' house for dinner. And then that happened less and less. And then eventually I was only seeing my dad's parents on Christmas. And I didn't see my brother and sister for, I think my brother was like 5 years, until he met his future wife and had kids. And my sister, after she got married, this was 6 years ago. I hadn't spoken to her in probably 5 years. And then she messaged me on Facebook. And we totally have not acknowledged the fact that we didn't speak for 5 years. But I'm glad that she messaged me. They're a lot older than Ben and I. Jared is 8 years older than me, and Steph is 12 years older than me. So they went through something very different when my dad died. Yes. And I'm glad that they were able to move past it. I think my sister feels a lot of guilt.
Yes.
But I was young, so I don't know what the family dynamic was when he died. But I know he had 3 brothers who all had families. But it does make me sad that that I don't have that connection with that part of my family anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are some negative things that can come of the changes in the family relationship when there's been a suicide.
Yeah.
Pointing blame sometimes makes somebody feel better. That's too bad. Thank you for sharing that, Andrea. Larry, do you have a comment on any changes, whether it be family, friends?
It was quite comforting to have family, friends there, and you were able to, for me personally, I was able to unload a lot of the bad feelings I had, and I had no issues sharing those bad feelings. I really didn't. But whether the family or the friends just couldn't handle that all the time. But yes, it dwindled and it ended. It ended quite abruptly. I thought that nobody would come around, and the talks or even calling on a phone was not ever helpful. So it was quite difficult. Like I say, probably the only thing that comforted me is that I had my wife and our 2 daughters and their husbands, and not always could I talk to them and say what I was feeling, but to say that you take life for granted, I don't think I will ever take life for granted.
Something definitely realized when you lose somebody to suicide, that to be grateful for what you have, and you pretty much re-examine the meaning of life and the purpose. Would you say that maybe you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta believe that everything happens for a reason. Not always do I agree with the reason. And I think of Nick Daly and believe that in my heart that he's where he wants to be, and that's good with me.
Well, that's good. You have something to believe to help you along. That's what I think you have to draw on.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. Chris?
Well, I was always close to Rick, so I lost a lot there. My daughter wasn't talking to me at the time, and we now communicate.
Good.
I know when we first get on the phone, it's like we're walking on a piece of ice till finally we crash through, and then we let the barriers down and we talk about stuff, so that's cool. My younger son, we have become closer. We actually helped each other go through the process. We would talk to each other about, well, this is the way I'm feeling now, and he would say, oh, I used to feel that way, Mom, you'll get through that. So it's like we talked to each other about our experiences, we shared them, and we're walking together through it. I am a lifeline for him now. He calls me when he's stressed, and we talk. I wish my son Rick had done that. As far as friends, I have seen another side to my friends that I didn't know, because I was always Miss Independent, and I learned to be humble, and my friends have been there for me. So it's a good side. I didn't realize what kind of people I had in my life till I went through this, and it's just been amazing. And Rick's friends have been there for me. They still talk about him. We still, special occasions, you know, we talk about memories, and they're sharing stories that I didn't know. yeah, been getting a lot of love, and I think that's what's been helping me a lot to go through this.
That's good. That's good. You pretty much answered my next question when you talk about getting a lot of love and people reaching out to you. And that is, can you think of ways that you stay connected with your loved ones? And what's the important part of healing in your journey of grief? Do you have a comment on that, Erica?
I think staying connected to the families is the biggest thing, because that's your biggest connection. That's where you have a lot of memories with that person, and I try to keep his memory alive by, reminding myself that there's certain things that him and I used to do together, that it's okay to do those things even though he's not here. Listening to the music and enjoying the music, looking at old pictures, just reminiscing, talking about him, talking about, the good times with both of the boys, and just trying to look at the positives and not focus so much on, how they passed away.
Yes.
So.
That's a very good point. Focusing on the positive and not how they passed away or the day.
Yes.
Focusing on before and after rather than the day can be a positive.
And I think that's very hard for people who are just going through this for, very fresh to focus on, because they're so focused on, the whys and, how could this happen? And it's not something that comes right away. It's something that you learn as you grieve, and it comes with time.
That's right, exactly. Yep, I agree very much. Thank you. Andrea, how about you?
I think sharing memories is a huge part of it. My mom and my brother and I talk about Dad freely.
Yeah.
Less so with my older brother and sister, since my sister less, my older brother's kind of touchy. So I don't bring up Dad around him. If he brings Dad up, that's fine, but I don't bring him up. I know that I kind of, in my university years, I developed a passion for classic rock music, and I'm not sure if it's because classic rock is awesome or because my dad liked it. And I know I get really mad when people tell me they don't like the Eagles. I get offended personally.
Was that your dad's favorite? Obviously, yes.
Yeah, and I think telling funny stories is awesome. Even when my mom's dating someone new, we talk about Dad, and I don't think it makes them awkward, but too bad if they.
Yeah.
And I think sharing the funny stories is really important.
Yeah, I think you're right when you say I don't think talking about it makes it awkward, because if you talk about it, they get used to it. Talking about it works. Not talking about it doesn't seem to work. So I think you're on the right path anyway. Larry, do you have any comment or any thoughts?
Oh, I reconnect with Nicholas daily. It's I can, listening to the radio going to work in the morning, I have certain tapes in there that songs that he played and he liked, and he was always a big one for sitting at the computer and finding songs and playing these songs. And probably one of the biggest thing is music now to me was always important before, but now it's like a connection that I can hear him through the song, or I can feel him through the song.
Right.
And that is my my greatest gift that I have received is feeling good about him, and talking to him is through the music. We used to quite often be interrupted, my wife and I, when we were watching TV, that he'd be on the computer and had to shut the TV down to listen to what he was doing and what he was downloading, and there were certain songs that he had, and we'd never hesitate to shut the TV off just to pay attention to what he was doing and what he was saying and the songs that he was singing. He was getting right into it. You know, he always did that, and that's why that's my connection with him is the music, and of course the the grass cutting thing. It was, and it's a good thing. When he was younger and he would start cutting grass, he would always say, "Why don't you cut different ways or whatever?" And I was pretty particular, you know, and I'd say, "Well, this way here you can keep it in line and straight, and none of this, you know, wasting time or what have you." So as he got older, he would get on the lawnmower and he would cut it his way, and I would have to just let him do it, because it was all right. There was no harm. And I find myself cutting the grass the way he used to cut the grass, and it's a good feeling. Yep.
So it's a good thing to keep connected, find ways of being connected,
Yeah.
and use it in your favor. That's kind of a form of having control.
I guess.
Chris, do you have ways you want to share how you stay connected with Rick?
My son was very creative. I have artistic work that he's left behind. A piece that he did of Kurt Cobain that I begged him for when he was a teenager, and found out through his friends he was going to throw it out, and I got it. And the day I went to the funeral is the day I framed the picture. So I'm very proud of that picture.
Good.
He was a singer-songwriter, so he has left me lots of discs with his voice on it. Lots of music, some of it sad. And I listen to it a lot. My friends say a little too much. But if I put on a jam session where he's jamming with the band and they're talking and joking, it's like he's right there. And I just love it.
Good. It's a form of self-healing. Very good.
Yeah.
Has anyone discovered spirituality through a tragic loss like this? Erica?
I would say it's changed me as a person.
Yeah.
I always say to my friends and my family, if this hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And I don't know what kind of person I would be today if it hadn't happened to me. But I think when something like this happens to you, especially at such a young age, you're almost forced to grow up faster than everybody else. You have a different understanding of the world around you. So I definitely say it's changed me as a person.
Thank you.
I definitely think it informed the person that I became. I consider myself spiritual, not religious, but spiritual. And I think it's definitely informed my opinions on certain things. Religion has such a weird stance on it, right?
Yes.
And it's so at odds with public opinion now. Like, we're trying to increase awareness, and a lot of religious, like classically religious opinions are quite stigmatized about it.
Yeah.
And well, religious opinions are always, slow to change.
That's right.
Maybe that'll be one of the things that this helps with.
Yeah. Good point. Larry?
Yeah, I totally believe that there's so much more out there that has helped me personally that I would ever have thought of. And it's just through the ability to calm down and listen and ask for and receive some kind of direction. And it's helped me, and I talk to many different things in many different ways, and it's helped me.
They say that, and they are many experts, many mental health organizations, and many people in general, that men have a very tough time grieving. Men have a hard time talking. How do you feel that you've just commented that spirituality has changed you and it's a good thing and you feel good about it? Are you okay telling men that it's okay to develop and feel spiritual? It's okay to know it exists?
There's there's so much about me as a person, and I can only speak for me myself, is that I had to have something, and I found something to help me go beyond where I was at. Like the dark feeling or the dark hole or whatever. I was there for so long that I needed to reach out and grab what was out there for me. And to say that it was wrong, no. The communicating part, yeah, you would, I shut down and not talk because I didn't think it was right or it didn't feel right, but it was negative. It was no good for me. I was hurting not only myself, but the people around me that I care for and that cared for me. So I believe it to be good for me, and that's what I'm holding on to.
What a great learning. What a great awareness that you've come to take hold of those changes, and you stated you needed, you wanted, it felt good. That's awesome. Good. Thank you. Chris, any thoughts, any feelings about that?
Well, a year after my son passed away, I decided to quit my job. And I took the leap of faith. At least that's what I thought I did. And life seemed to get worse. I worried a lot. And just recently, I realized I took the leap of faith, but I didn't have the trust that went with it. And I have started going to church. And it is helping me to find my way.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. I think it's important that each person as an individual seeks out what is helpful, what is a useful tool or a useful resource, and run like heck with it, because it's for you. So to recognize what you need and to not be afraid to try new things. After all, it's your new life. Good. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any questions that you still have in your mind today? Like, why did this happen? Or has some of it settled down and changed how you felt at first?
I think there's always going to be the question of why. And I think everybody that goes through this plays that what if game, and asks themselves, why did this happen to me? What if, I never met this person, or what if I had done something differently? You can only do that for so long, and unfortunately for most of us, the why part will never be answered, because when someone takes their own life, there's not much closure, and we have to try to find our own. And most of us don't get that. I found personally through my journey that I've encountered a lot of really interesting situations where I've met a lot of people coincidentally, through school or, people that I grew up with who have been through a certain crisis and are reaching out to me. And it's a very certain situation where they've lost someone to suicide.
Yes.
And I think that the why part of my question is slowly coming together, because I'm realizing that, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And I truly think that this was something that was put on me to give back to other people down the road. So I'm starting to see that as I go through this.
It's a very, very good way to look at things. Yeah. Because we're not provided with an instruction book.
No.
And it's all based on experience. I think it's important that it's good for you, that you believe it with confidence and you go with it.
Yep, exactly.
And share it. Very good. Andrea?
I think I never really went through a phase where I was just endlessly wondering why he killed himself, why that happened. It was just kind of a fact of life for me. And I'm aware of the fact that I'm never going to be able to know. Like, most people who kill themselves don't leave notes. And if they don't, then you're never going to know exactly why. And there can be, endless speculation about it, but you're not going to ever know.
That's right.
And I went through a phase where I felt like I should feel guilty, that I should feel like I did something wrong, that I should blame myself, and I didn't. Like, I never felt that way, but I always felt like I should, and like I was doing it wrong. And there's no right way to react to that sort of thing, but once I got over my little angsty teenage phase, I accepted that, and I stopped feeling like I was doing grief wrong.
That's interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. Larry, do you have any comment?
The day of the funeral, an individual that knew Nick quite well, a professional fella, came over and he had been away, and he actually missed the funeral, and he came over that same night when everybody was around, and he said, sorry, he said, I did not find out till just a few hours ago that Nick had passed away. And I said, yeah. And he said, what was wrong? Or I vividly remember him saying, I can't believe he didn't strike me as that kind of a person. This individual said that to me. And I don't think that at that time that I passed judgment on why or why not Nick had taken his life. I just know that I was quite proud of him. And my response to that person was, I can see Nick now. And here's a crowd of people. They're standing on either side, and Nick's walking through there, proud as a peacock. He would never slumber. That was him. And he showed no fear, as I remember him. But I said, now picture me with that same crowd. I'd be looking sideways and behind me. That's my response to that individual, of my thoughts of my son. And I'm okay with that.
That's a very powerful statement. A very good vision to hold on to. Great analogy. Because I'm sure what you see through your eyes of your son is true. So you obviously have something to be very proud of. Thank you for sharing that. I know that must have been very difficult.
I think that it's worth pointing out that what that person said to you, that they didn't think Nick was that kind of person, that's not a fair statement to make. Because that implies that, there's such a judgment on that statement, like it's a crime.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think they would do that kind of thing, and that's not fair at all.
It's a very good point, Andrea. I think that survivors will realize that most of all. And if you haven't experienced it, you won't until it's pointed out. So it's not a very fair judgment on others. Because if you look around today, tomorrow, yesterday, can you actually pick out who's going to take their life? Oh, that person looks like the kind of person that's going to take their life? Not at all. I truly believe that people that have taken their lives are very smart, creative, and intelligent. They don't want us to know. And that's why we don't know. So you're right, it's an unfair judgment. I've heard comments said they're selfish. And again, it's because they don't know any different. That's why they make those comments. Chris, do you have anything you want to share on?
The why is a big thing with me. And no, he didn't leave a note. But when I talked to my doctor about it, he told me that people like Rick that are very creative, they live on the edge. And he had a lot going on in his life.
Yeah.
And I was helping him as much as I could. I kept telling him, you know, someday you're going to look back and laugh at this and wonder why you worried so much. I think he just, his sister and I think he got one more bad piece of news and decided that was enough.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, why was a big one.
Yeah.
Why didn't he talk to me?
Yeah. I believe because a person has died by suicide, they're not around anymore to tell us why. So we could struggle forever looking for answers of why, and could I have done something different? And assuming is only, again, our judgment, and coming up with some kind of reason is our own reason. That person is not here to tell us, so there will never be an answer. Never be an answer until we meet them. It's something we struggle with. Everybody will struggle with it, but I think when you realize there'll never be an answer to it. So, on wrapping up, I just wanted to ask, is there anything that each of you would like to share? Say there's a survivor for the first time watching this video. Maybe they've never attended a group. Maybe you have something you would like to share with that survivor that you want to tell them. Mm-hmm. What is it that you want to tell?
So many things. I think the first thing would be you're not alone. I think the second thing would be, you know, don't blame yourself for this. This isn't your fault. And talk about it. Just don't keep to yourself. It's only going to make it worse. Make sure that you talk to people about this, and seek proper help. So.
Good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Andrea?
I would just say that there's no right or wrong way to feel or to deal with that kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And no one should ever feel like what they're going through isn't normal.
That's a very good point, because there's no definition of normal. What is it? There's no instruction book, and everybody has opinions, so that's a very good piece of advice. Larry, do you have anything you would like to say to the survivors, whether it be men or women or anybody?
Without a doubt, reach out as soon as you can. And the statement of you're not alone is so true. Even though you feel like, yes, this has only happened to you, and nobody will ever understand that. But there's someone out there that will throw something at you to grab onto, and I know that for a fact.
Thank you. Chris, what piece of advice might you have?
Join a support group.
Mm-hmm.
Try and have friends and people around you to support you. Weed out the negative ones because they're not going to help you much.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
Very good point.
yeah.
Good. Is there anybody that's involved in any community awareness, suicide awareness, community events? Is there an organization that does anything? And do you find that helpful coming out? Erica?
Definitely. We started a memorial golf tournament, and we do it every single year. And we also do our suicide awareness walk in this community, which I think is great. And we have our balloon release. And I think it's important for everyone to keep those things going and keep the awareness to be brought. We also have, in our high school, we started a suicide awareness committee. And our biggest goal there was, you know, if we can reach one kid, then we've made a difference. And
Yeah.
we've done some pretty great things in the community.
Good.
I haven't done anything with suicide specifically, but I'm volunteering with victim services. And some of the people that I'll be helping there will be survivors of suicide loss.
Good. Very good. Larry, do you know of any community events or anything that are happening in your small town?
Like Erica said, it's a beautiful thing. It's the golf tournament that happens every year in memory of Nick. It's an event where I believe people come because they want to contribute, but also it's an event where you can have a good time and eat, and even though it's in memory of a sad thing that happened, it's a good thing that is the end result. And that's a positive thing. And I like that. And the walk, the suicide walk, for awareness, same thing, there's a lot that needs to be addressed and brought out in the forefront, and it is a good way to show people that we care, and we are still here, and it's a way of showing respect, I think, for our loved ones that have gone. In the balloon releasing, that's a beautiful thing too, because.
So would you say you're a pretty good golfer, Larry?
In my own mind, I am, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that. Chris?
No, not involved in anything. I'm still working through my pain.
Good. Great.
Could be something in the future.
Very good. So just a very short thought. What do you want to tell people that say, I don't know what you need, I don't know how to help you? What do you think the number one need of a survivor of suicide loss is?
Someone to listen. Listen.
Awesome.
You don't have to say anything. Sometimes just being there for just lending an ear or a shoulder to cry on, that's all we need. We're not asking you to be an expert. We just need somebody to listen to us.
Erica, that's so well said. Would you agree?
Yes.
Without a doubt, like hugs were okay, but since Nick's suicide, hugs are a big thing for me, and I don't have a problem hugging, be it female or male. It's a good feeling to say that I have loved, and I feel loved, and I give love. And
That makes a very good point. It makes me think of if we did not feel the loss of our loved one, we would not have loved. So that was very well said. Thank you, Larry. And I want to thank you all again so very much for assisting me in my dream. And my dream was this DVD, a resource for other survivors to listen and connect and find hope I very much know that when I heard the news and was told that our son died by suicide, alone was there for years. And there was no resources. I found no assistance and no help. And I'm very proud that you all came out and shared such a tough topic, the loss, grief, and suicide. Most recent, my dear husband and I, we watched Dr. Wayne Dyer on TV. And he said it so well, and I just want to say what he said because he just makes you feel so good inside. And he said, what we have power of is to place an intention in our imagination. And we can change anything we want. It's our intention. Nobody has control of our intention. It's our control. And something else that works very nicely is your intention that you can say to yourself when you are feeling tough or it's hard to get up in the morning is, I am well. I am in good health. I deserve proper treatment. I deserve happiness, peace, and joy. I am grateful. I feel grateful. I feel loved, and I give love. I feel satisfied. I am content. I am strong. I do not judge others. So again, I want to thank you very much. And I hope that if you're watching this DVD, whether it's for the first time, the second time, or the fourth time, please remember we have gathered here today to provide you hope. We want you to know there is hope to survive after a suicide. Thank you very much.
There's a brook by a shore leading an empty road down to nothing to some. The shoreline shortcuts the passageway, been and gone back home. For my tongue is the pen of a ready writer, the pestilence that stalks in my darkness, leading me back where I belong. I've forgotten my sense of self, define who I am at the edge of all I was. The days to my exterior are falling too short of a sigh. Held by the whispers, a quiet extension, a humble vow, and in my mind I always say goodbye. I love you, my faith is not blind, it's well founded. I've conviction in this feeling I hold so dear to my heart. Be well, gathering ash. Please be well, gathering my ash. And if you need anything at all, the wanderer lurks strong by anything at all to cast a gloom over my receptive dawn. Don't tell me you love me because 'cause with you I'm further from myself than I've ever been. And whom will you blame when they discover all my imperfections? That's why I ask you to keep your hell away from me. That's why I ask you to keep your hell away from me. Discover yourself within a fleeting field. Forbearance, my darling, for desirable expansion supersedes any reasoning. And those who hate me without a cause are more than the hairs on my precious little head. And those who destroy me are oh so powerful. Why are you in despair, oh sweet soul of mine? And why are you so disturbed within me? Be well, gathering ash. Please be well, gathering ash. Please be well, gathering my ash.